Another quarterback, John, got tagged, and it was Lamar Jackson. He got the exclusive tag so from the Baltimore Ravens because they cannot come to agreement on a contract extension. So basically, before I throw it to John, the tag is that Lamar can negotiate with other teams for a contract, but the Ravens can match any offer. And if they do, then the team that offered Lamar the contract, or sorry, if they don't match the contract that the other team proposed to Lamar, or that the other team Lamar agreed to, other team has to also send at least 2 first-round picks. Basically, it's kind of like a sign and trade in the NBA, kind of like that. So anyhow, John, any thoughts on the tag? And a lot of people already kind of in media are kind of in an uproar for Lamar because he's kind of been put in a tough position. But what were your thoughts?
I understand it from both sides, right? I've kind of had some conversations with some of my coworkers about this. From Lamar's perspective, number one, I think it could be argued because just for clarification too, but what I'm about to say, the reports are that he's asking for a fully guaranteed contract in the range of Deshaun Watson. And as we talked about when the Deshaun Watson thing happened, the NFL was very mad at the Cleveland Browns because it set a standard that was going to bite some owners in the butt in the future. And we're seeing that now with Lamar. And I guarantee we will see it with some of these other quarterbacks. I would not be shocked if Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, some of these guys are getting massive, fully guaranteed deals. Obviously, for those guys, I don't think there's going to be any problems. But I think the same could have been said for Lamar, but here we are. Anyway, from Lamar's perspective, I totally get it. I think that most people could argue that he is a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson. I mean, the guy won an MVP award. We saw what their offense was the last 2 years without him. That said, from the also on the Lamar side, he doesn't have all the off the field concerns that Deshaun Watson has, so he's a safer investment. That said, from the Ravens side, I think I understand it from their perspective too. I don't think any NFL team wants to fully guarantee any contracts because I'm pretty sure the only 2 players in history to do that were Kirk Cousins, and that was like a 3-year deal, so it was a little more understandable. And it wasn't like record-breaking salary-wise. And then obviously Deshaun Watson now. But then from their perspective, Lamar has not been the healthiest of quarterbacks. And I know there's kind of the uproar about like, are you more risk averse if you are a running quarterback? Because I know there's kind of been a hot debate about that because technically there's some stats out there that would argue that if you're a mobile quarterback who can run, you're actually safer than a QB who can't, like based on injury rates and all that kind of stuff. That said, I understand it from the Ravens' perspective because Lamar, although he, is a running quarterback and theoretically should be safer, has dealt with injuries the last 2 years. Like he has missed a lot of crucial games, and his style of play is also very heavily reliant on his physical gifts, and speed does not last forever. So at some point that could fade. I'm not saying it's going to happen anytime soon, but that's just something that they're considering and negotiating on. So I get it. I understand it from both perspectives. I've seen some reports that some teams were already saying that they're not going to enter the Lamar sweepstakes. I thought it was kind of funny that coincidentally a lot of those teams are really bad, like Washington, like Houston, like Las Vegas. Coincidentally, I think those teams would be teams that Lamar would probably not want to play for. Just my personal thoughts. I think, maybe you reach out, the agent says, no, we're not interested in signing with you guys. And the team puts out a report that says we didn't want Lamar anyway. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I do think that the way the narratives are kind of spinning right now, it seems like a lot of people are trying to spin it as like, nobody wants Lamar. And I just don't think that's true. Once again, I bring up the example of Deshaun Watson. He had so many other things surrounding him. They had to trade 3 first-round picks to acquire him. He had 30 accusations against him, all this kind of stuff, and yet he still got what he wanted. I would be shocked if Lamar doesn't break the bank here as well. It's just a matter, I guess, of what team does it. My gut tells me Baltimore is going to cave at some point, but we'll see.
Yeah, I do want to add in regards to teams acquiring him. I think the whole trading 2 first-rounders is tough. On top of giving him a max deal, and it's just there aren't many teams that are in position to just, I want not essentially give away, because again, Lamar back, but to give up all that capital and still be competitive. Because obviously, you're bringing Lamar Jackson, you want to be competitive, and just not many. Like I said, the Eagles have 2 first round picks, but they're not going to. They have Jalen Hurts on a cheap deal, and I can't. I mean, only other team I can think of is the Jets, and apparently the Commanders too. But the Commanders, apparently, they were one of those teams that weren't interested in Lamar, which I thought was odd, because I thought he would help them out a lot in terms of not. I mean, we know they have talented skill position players. He could step in, obviously have better skill position players than he probably did in Baltimore. But I'm nonetheless going to be very interested to see if a team offers, what he'll agree to. 'Cause I think it's important to remember too, Lamar is representing himself. He does not have an agent, and I don't know the full intricacies of all that, but apparently that can cause issues negotiating wise for I guess between the team and Lamar, because I guess from what I've heard, sometimes you get lowballed in the first offer, and it's important they say don't take business personal, but for Lamar, it is personal because it's his livelihood he's trying to negotiate for. But yeah, I'm with you. I think end of day, this works out for Baltimore because I bet you there were reports that they were offering him one of the largest contracts, I guess, per year. It was like a record-breaking contract. That was the exact quote. So I just don't see any other team giving Lamar that. It's probably going to be lesser than that, and Lamar's going to kind of have to settle. But I guess, too, what could be interesting and maybe more likely is maybe he just plays out in the tag and forces their hand next year. But that's also a major risk for Lamar because, as you mentioned, he's been injured the past 2 years going into December. And if he gets injured again, then that's it's just scary to play on having just 1 year on your contract as opposed to the following years and having those assurances and guarantees going forward. So that'll be definitely interesting to see going forward. Obviously, we have to see. The Jets could, like I said, the Jets could be a contender, but we'll have to see what happens between them and Rodgers. We're not going to talk about Rodgers because it seems like those two are tied together, and that's just speculation there. Anything you want to add on Lamar's situation or any maybe destinations that pop in your head before we move on?
That's going to be for me. I know that, in our group chat we were talking about, and it's not going to happen because it's the Niners and they get linked to every quarterback, but it's just not going to happen. But if Kyle Shanahan and that run game got a guy like Lamar Jackson and they already don't need someone that can throw the ball a ton, they would be crazy.
Yeah, and it's a shame. I think Atlanta was one of those teams that weren't interested, which I was like, man, but I guess they're going down on Ritter, seeing what he has. Only other team I would maybe throw in is Indianapolis, but once again, like Indianapolis is already, they've tried multiple years bringing in quarterbacks. It seems, there are also reports that they just want to start with a fresh rookie to build around. So we'll see what happens there.